Hello, 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 Facebook. It is her, she, me, your girl, Mission for Pink. If you're trying to figure out who is this woman coming across my timeline, that's who I am. I am the CEO and lead strategist of Thumbprint Collective. We are a collective of Black entrepreneurs who have come together to help other Black businesses grow, thrive, scale to the next level. Like, we're in this for the long haul. We are not in this to make a quick buck, a quick dollar, whatever you want to call it. We want to see us have businesses that can compete, right? Like, it's time. It's the whole Black businesses are the fastest growing businesses, the fastest to open a business. But where are they 5 years from now? They don't exist anymore, right? And so we're passionate about changing that. And in being passionate about changing that, I knew one of the things that we had to talk about is building a team. And so that is why this month we decided to invite some HR pros onto the platform to discuss how to build a team. And we have had literally everything that I did not expect us to have during this series, right? Like, and if you've joined us, Joy snatched our edges. She stepped on all of our toes. She gave us the awakening that we needed as business owners, right? Because it starts with us. Dewana came on and she really gave us a breakdown on resumes and what to look for and how to really, weed through, because you get a whole lot and sometimes it's just like, this is too much. Right. And then we had Alicia on, and she talked about really some basics that I think we forget, right? Like, we went from corporate to now being business owners and we forget about all these pieces. And she also really told us how important an HR consultant is. So with that being said, we're going to do something completely different, completely off the cuff, right? Tyler and I were just talking before we hit start, go live. And I'm just going, y'all know I'm transparent. Y'all know I will tell you the good, the bad, the ugly. And so we're just going to have an honest conversation about some HR things that I am experiencing as a CEO, or I have experienced as a CEO, and just get an expert to tell us how to navigate these waters. So before we get into that, Tyler, I want you to just tell them a little bit about who you are, what you do, and all that good stuff.
Yes. So good afternoon to the people on the East Coast. I'm here in Los Angeles, so still morning for us. A pleasure to be here. Thank you for having me. It's really an honor. So just a little bit about myself. Background is really at the intersection of technology, policy, education, and people. Started my career within the tech space a little over almost 6 or 7 years ago. And so ever since, I've been working in the people operations space, helping um, businesses, particularly tech companies and nonprofits, scale their teams, initiatives, and also just coaching entrepreneurs through the ideation to execution stage of businesses and various projects that they have. And so I'm really excited to be here today. A lot of good gems, I think, and hope that you'll be able to take away from this conversation, but it will be real and off the cuff. And so I'm excited just to dive into the HR challenges.
Yes. So I think, and I told you I'm gonna keep it real, okay? So I'm gonna tell myself real quick. I think for me, some of the biggest issues with building my team is, number one, I work at a high level of excellence, right? Like, I want to go above and beyond. I want to leave the lasting impression. And this is just like really who I am. Like, this is who I was when I worked for the county. I'm from LA, so go LA, right? The Rams are going to the Super Bowl. But
Yeah.
that's who I am. Like, that is who I am by character, by default, right? Um, and so as I brought people into the team and into the space, I brought people who were experts in whatever piece that I brought them into, right? But they were not necessarily they didn't necessarily have that same, what do you call it, work ethic or
Mhm.
drive or determination to kind of go above and beyond sometimes. And so I'm always in this battle with, can you just do it? Like, why is this
Right.
so hard?
Well, it's interesting, right? Because you said, you're hiring experts, and you have a level of excellence. And the thing is, we see this all the time, right? You could be an expert in something, but that doesn't mean you're excellent. Um, and sometimes we often conflate the two. And so, um, when I'm working with hiring managers or, other, especially CEOs, because all CEOs have this bar, of excellence, and it varies from CEO to CEO. And what's really interesting is getting clear on what that means, right? So how do you, when you talk about your bar of excellence, let's just dive. What does that mean? What does that look like? How does that, if I'm coming to you and I'm trying to hire for your team, I'm gonna have you define that bar of excellence. So you said strong work ethic. That's like a must have. Um, but like even detail, what is a strong work ethic? Is it someone who's efficient? Is it someone who's going the extra mile? Like,
It's all like, it's everything. No, I think so for me, I I overstand life happens, right? Like
mhm,
I got 4 kids. I get it. Life happens.
right,
There are days when I'm just like, I just can't do anything today. Like it's just not
right,
going down. I don't know what you want, but I ain't gonna be the one to do it. Right. But even so, for me, because I know life happens, because I know those days exist, I try to give 110, 150% when I'm giving it, right? So it kind
mhm,
of makes up for when I can't give it or when I'm not able to show up. Um, Deadlines, like that's a huge thing for me. I think, if we say this is going to be done on Friday, I'm looking for it on Thursday, right?
mm,
Because that's in my mind, like how that works. Like, even especially if you have to give it to somebody else before we give it to the client, right? Like, if we all
right,
know that there's a chain of command, I'm thinking everything should be like a day or two internally for me ahead of the schedule, right? Now, if you know, I think our graphic designer is the best graphic designer in the world, right? I'm a little biased, but that's just what I believe. If we have to turn something into a client on Friday, and she always sends it to me, I'm like, why are you sending me this? Like, I don't need to see what you got. Like, you're the bomb.
mm,
Like, it's amazing, right? But other people, I'm like, I had to wait till Friday for this, this.
right,
Oh, okay. And it's like, I think people just like, for me, like I can tell when you've rushed through something to meet the deadline and when you've actually done it, right? And I think people
right.
don't, for me, people don't see that it's clear. Like, if this is your normal level of excellence, it is very clear when we are down here, when we're up here, when we're over here. Like, so for me, excellence is just really the best foot forward at all times.
So, so it's so funny, right? Because just the whole, notion of your business is about just this collective and creating blueprints. And so what I think would be could be helpful, and just a suggestion, is something I've seen is, as you're engaging new clients, right? New potential other entrepreneurs, express what your bar of excellence is. Like, you could just create like a little PowerPoint slide and literally have bullets like excellence for me looks like this. Like, these are my expectations. If a deadline is Friday, I expect to see a draft Wednesday. And it may seem crazy, but it's like it's all about communication. And because excellence means one thing to me, means something else to you, just like in a relationship, we got to get on the same page. I need to know what your words are, what your definitions of these words are, um, and what your expectations. And then you need to make sure I comprehend, right? Like, okay, cool. I understand that you mean All right, deadline Friday. I need first draft by Wednesday, just so I can approve.
That makes sense. That makes sense. And I know that I definitely have struggled, right? Like I know I hired before creating the SOPs.
Yeah,
Right? Like I'm telling you, I'm gonna keep it real today. So,
yeah,
we had all these people fulfilling these roles, and I'm like, this is chaos. Like, what is going on? Like, we got to get people together. And so I took a step back. I created SOPs, and like I began to put things and systems in place. So now I'm like, okay, so we got systems and we got the SOP, and this is clearly how it should be done. And so now I'm like, wait, why wasn't it done? Like, wait, what just happened?
right. Yeah, it happens though. I mean, we're not perfect. And I think we all hire with like really good intentions, especially when we hire within our own community, right? It's like, okay, cool, giving this person, this business a chance to win with me. Um, but it's frustrating and it's, you know, because I've been thinking about my blog post and what I wanted to share and what I had outlined was just like, how do people of color specifically um, manage their own emotional, professional like capacity while also like creating opportunities, um, running your own business, as you put out, like being a mom, a partner, like just how do we do that well? Like, what does that look like? And I think the first part of it, and I offer it to you today, right, is like grace, is like giving yourself a bit of grace of like, yes, you do have extremely high standards, and we all should for our business. Um, but everybody is not us, and that's okay. And it's like in these moments, um, how do we take a step back and just be like, you know what? Cool. Let me come back to this so that
Yeah.
I can make sure I'm giving my best self to this situation.
Before I get to cussing people out, okay.
Truly, truly. But I love it though, right? Like you, one of the key things is you, especially so, my background being in tech and helping companies scale, a lot of times the you make hires or people make hires before the SOPs come in. And then you come back and you're like, you know what? Next time, I'm going to make sure before I make this next hire, I'm going to build that out.
Yeah. Yeah. And I think it's so interesting. Like, I think what you just said first about emotionally dealing with all of it, right? Because I swear when one person on the team goes left, then the second, then the third, like everybody goes left together
Mhm,
or everybody's in alignment together, right? And then
mhm,
I start to see like my household wants to go oh, so everybody's gonna
mhm.
go left. Okay. So and it's kind of like that grace that you're talking about and just really taking a step back and going, is Mercury in retrograde again? Like what y'all got going on? Like what's going on?
No, for sure. For sure. What's your routine? Like, what is your routine as a CEO? Like, what does your day look like?
So I am not your typical CEO, right? Like I
Mhm.
have to say that. I am not
There
one.
is no typical CEO, by the way.
But you know how they be like, you got to get up early and get the day. No, look, I am a
Yeah.
Black woman that loves to sleep in. I don't know who told y'all that we got to wake up before 9 a.m., but it ain't me. Like it's
Mhm.
not happening. Um, so and then I am a mom, and I still have one kid who's home who doesn't go to school. So
Mhm.
my day ebbs and flows, right? Because of that,
Wonderful.
because a perfect day for me, I get up, I get dressed, I make breakfast, I have my coffee, then I come in my
Mhm.
office. Like that's the perfect morning routine, right? Realistically, 7 out of let's say 6 days, because I work 6 days. Out of 6 days, that probably happens two. We're lucky, three, right?
Okay.
Realistically, it's probably get up, guzzle down this coffee, hop on this call. Now let's go eat breakfast. Now let's come back. While dealing with the I have a 4-year-old. So the 4-year-old who wants to be a part of every call, the emails, the texts, the drama of everybody else's stuff, and then okay, let me do some of my stuff. And so I think that's more realistically what my day looks like. But in a perfect world.
In a perfect world. No, I love that. No, but it is real. Gosh. So yeah, we're gonna go on some tangents today, and I hope that's okay.
That's okay.
Um,
I love
no,
it.
because one of the resources that, and I mean this is a business idea for someone, is to really figure out like how can we provide reliable, safe support for moms and dads too, like single parents, or and not even just single parents, actually all parents. Um, because the story is the same, like from the narrative of having like children while building a business. Um, it's I think we're seeing it, it's in our community for sure. It's been a thing, it's been around, it's been a constant. But I really hope that we can get like some resources, or someone can create a cool business model that can provide like real time in-home support that allows for parents to um, be able to take a step back. Because I literally had a conversation last Thursday and Friday where a friend who's also a business owner was just like, I need a break. Like literally, and the thing is right, like you- thriving, thriving has a lot of things going, business growing, projects, opportunities are being presented. But that balance of how do I create my me time? How do I create that time where I can be able to enter into the workplace, uh, which might just be a couple rooms over, and still show up to deal with like people and all of their stuff, like deal with me, all of my stuff. So it we don't have any good solutions for that.
Right. And I know for me, I didn't leave the comfortability of working for the county, right? Because
Right,
let's just be honest, it wasn't the pay, it wasn't like what I did. It was the comfortability because that was very comfortable. I didn't leave the comfortability of that to still have to not be who I was,
mm,
right? Like, because when we show up in corporate, we can't bring our kids to work day. Like that's not how that works. Your kid, you can't leave every time something happens with your kids, right? And I think most people in our community, our support system understands that. So they're willing to pitch in when you work a job, right? Like
right,
they're willing to, after school care, or they're willing to take the kids to school, or they're willing to pick up if, you know, Johnny fell off the slide and bumped their head. They're willing to step in these spaces. But when you're an entrepreneur in our community, it like becomes this, oh, well, you have tons of free time. Actually, I have less.
I'm blessed.
I have less. Wait, no. Right. And then my kids have seen me on an entrepreneur journey for over 10 years now, right? So
Mm,
that's really, they've seen me do both, and now they've seen me
right,
just do one. So they kind of are used to it, my children. But, like support system wise, like from their fathers, from my mom, from, everybody's kind of like,
mm,
oh, well, don't you have, like, well, why don't you, like, I plan to homeschool. And that has really nothing to do with entrepreneurship, but it has a lot to do with this country and just where we are and all those
right.
things. And people are like, well, you need to start like yesterday. And I'm like, no, I don't. No, I don't. Like, she's not 5. According to the world, 5 is kindergarten. So we just go, and even still, like, I don't think education for me will be very strict and stringent, right? I'm an entrepreneur, so I'm gonna flow. So sometimes we're gonna learn about money because we're gonna talk about, doing the accounting and the balance
Right.
of my books. Like, Like that's what I want, because I think I'm at a space where I understand that we really have to give our children skills and knowledge that go beyond the school system. You know what I mean? Because as a community, I think we bought into get the education and you can, and now we're like, hold up, we got the most student loan debt, we the most educated, and we still behind the eight ball. Something don't add up here. And so, you know, and for me, I will say, you know, in my business, most of the people that I have brought on have kids and they have a family. And so I always do this like dance with, I'm a mom too, so I understand, but what the fuck?
Yeah, it's something you said kind of stuck out of the comfort of one. I think I want to touch on that entrepreneur mystique of like, oh, you have a lot of time. Um, and it's true in some senses, right? Like we do get to control our time, but we are still typically employed by a client, and it's not until you at least have significant revenue to be able to pay other people again. But that goes back to the first problem: if they're not hitting the bar of excellence, you're doing double work. Um, but it's one of the things that you touched on was just around when life happens and like having support systems and people to show up. And I think that like, you talked about in the corporate world of what is acceptable. I think that's the um, unfortunate, like one of just the unfortunate or fortunate positive side effects of 2020 was that when the world paused, we were able to actually see for the first time of like, oh, this is what it looks like for um, children not to go to school. This is what it looks like for entrepreneurs who have um, kids who are working and parenting and having to do both. And so I think we're in this beautiful space where we get to rewrite the rules, right? Where why can't your 4-year-old hop on the video? I mean, I know you don't want you don't want them to hop on the video,
Well,
but why not?
we have a great compromise. She hops on any internal meetings, like she can sit
Okay,
here and be part of that, and then
okay.
anything with clients or most of my lives, because she still hops on some of, but most of those things she knows. Okay, no, but so we I've created a safe space.
Cool. Yeah, because I think what I get concerned about with businesses is or just like certain entrepreneurial narratives that are seen. And I'm not saying you're applying this at all, but certain things are seen as like, oh, this is what professional looks like. This is what a standard. And it's more, and I always push back on those because a lot of those are narratives of um, the shifting the old guard, I'd say, like the old majority, right? Of like, this is what it looks like. This is how you have to show up. Even the fact of, personally, I feel like, 10 years ago, I wouldn't have dared gotten on a video webinar in anything less than a shirt and tie, right? And like now feeling so comfortable and free to like, why can't I get on a webinar live stream with my sweatshirt and I'm still a professional. So these norms, right? Like, I think, especially you get to recreate, and we get to recreate what these professional norms are and what is okay and what isn't.
Yeah, I love that. That was like before I started this business, because I think most entrepreneurs we go through, right? Like
A
we
couple.
it's a place until we get to, oh, this is what it was supposed to be all along,
Hmm.
right?
Hmm.
But that was like one thing that I was very adamant about from the beginning. Like, I'm not creating a business so I can't show up as Jennifer, and Jennifer is a mom, right? So if you can't, and I say that all the time, like if you are have an adverse reaction to hearing a kid scream, having an adverse reaction. They're down now, but I used to have like the ABC letters on my board back here. If you have an adverse reaction to any of these things, or if you feel as though I can't serve you wholeheartedly because these things are going on, I'm not it for you. Right. And that was the beauty of entrepreneurship, is that I could say that. Right. And I, like, in full transparency, there was a space where I was saying that, but then my bills was looking at me and I was like, well, maybe I could do something else. But every time I tried, it didn't work out. Right. Because, you know, it's just, and I don't know why, but this just popped into my head, like the boundaries, right? Like, I know that's like this new buzzword, setting my boundaries. But I think, you know, in our community, sometimes we take that a little too far, right? Like, we go to work and we don't have these boundaries for our employer, right? Like, our employer is putting a load of paper on our desk talking about, I need that done by 5 p.m. And we're just willing to do whatever we can do. But then when we transition into entrepreneurship, we're kind of like, oh, I have hard stop times and boundaries and all these things. And it's kind of like, that didn't work over there. So how does that work over here?
Because we all, the thing is so true, right? Like, I had one of my homeboys was talking about like how he felt like trauma and kind of like mental health, just like where did it come from? So in a similar way, like why are these people talking about it now? And then recently I saw an article that was talking about like how much trauma has actually been used in our just collective speech over the past few years. And when it comes to that boundaries, I think a part of it is right. Like we're in this new reawakening stage where people are really figuring out and even more than ever defining what is my liberation? How can I exist as me? And how can I do that in community with you? And I think when it comes to business, it's such an interesting space because we're still learning how to do business with each other. And I think especially as people of color, right? Like there are definitely models, but there haven't been, I think, as many different opportunities and or options where, you know, the place that I'm at is, okay, how can we do business with people who share the same kind of core fundamental values of respect, you know, honesty, transparency, but also like how do we resolve conflict with each other in business? Because I think that alludes to kind of what you're pointing at, of right? Like many of us are entrepreneurs because we don't want to compromise for the bag. Like that's hopefully collectively we're beyond that. But I think when we look at like models, I grew up in the South. Um, there were you know, when you look at especially in LA or other neighborhoods, they're like churches every other corner, right? So when you think about that, sometimes it's businesses in that they operate in the same space. And when you really start diving deep, sometimes the churches or the other business sprung up as a result of an unresolved conflict. And so it's like, how can we as business owners, leaders, members of businesses resolve conflict to be able to do business with each other, do business with others, that really I think espouses like true community of saying, okay, like your hours may be different, your work style may be different, but I really love your product. I really love what you're doing. We do believe in the core things. How can we meet in a space to do business together? But that may be crazy. Maybe you like that's too ideal.
No, I mean, I think I love it, right? Like when I think about when I created Thumbprint, it was very idealistic, right? And now that I'm having to put it into real life action, I'm realizing maybe I was a little too idealistic. Hold on, time out. Let's rethink some things. But I think that that's what at the core we want, right? Like we want to see one another, right? Like we always talk about, I see you, right? We want to see one another and recognize you're dope at this, you're great at this. But how do we find a space to meet in the middle, right? Um, Working with a lot of creatives are horrible at meeting deadlines and, following through and all those things, which is why in business we create systems, right? Because I'm horrible at it. Like I am a true creative. Like, please don't ask me 10 times about one thing, because now I'm uninspired and I don't want to do it anymore. Like that's just how we are. But then I created systems in my business where we were giving follow-up and we're sending these emails and we're constantly talking to our clients, and I'm not having to do anything. Right? Because now I have because I think, a lot of times that's what people just want. They want to know that you're still thinking about them, you're still working on whatever for them. But then at the same time, like I had to learn to stop answering personal emails from clients immediately. Because if I answer your email within 5-10 minutes, you think that I'm always going to answer within 5-10 minutes, right? So how do we see one another, respect one another, and still give space for everybody to do what they need to do? And I think for me, what I had to learn was part of it was not waiting till the last minute. Right? Because you now have an emergency, which is never going to be my emergency. And now there's all this pressure and weight, and now you're not even going to get my best. Right? So I think that's part, I know that's part of it, but I know there has to be more. Like, how do we do that thing?
Yeah, I'm curious, but it's a part of it is something that you label, and I think it's a misperception that, or yeah, it's a bad one about creatives, right? Of like creatives always are like missing deadlines because they flowing, they creating, but I think it's creatives as a whole, and we're starting to see a shift now. I think you're doing this through your business for sure, is to create those systems, right? Like creating systems of accountability for self, of like, okay, yes, I am a creative. I would argue, many, especially CEOs, are creatives, but it's the systems that's in place, and then it is the where I typically see creatives get in trouble is the delegation part, of just like really feeling like, oh my gosh, I need to own everything, as opposed to like, okay, who can I do this with? And so it was this great post on Instagram. I can't remember. I think his name is Mitchell. I can't remember his last name, from Virginia though. And he was just talking about like ego being, uh, I can do this, but wisdom is saying, okay, I can get help in this. I can, and I'm paraphrasing, but I can get support in this. And I think that is the area where we talk about like collective business. How do we meet people where they are? It's to really, just a really strong understanding of self, what you have. You like, look, I know myself, I need these systems. And so it's just like, all right, another person is gonna come to you and says, hey, you know what? You had these systems, I don't have any. This is my work style. And then really just that kind of dance of like, okay, well, here's how we can do business together. But this is the reality. Everybody's not gonna have that same level of patience. Because you have some people who is like, that's good. When you get the systems, you get the accountability, you get the discipline, then we can talk. And that can sometimes create a rift. But that feedback is important, right? Because often, and again, it goes to communication. Can you tell me why we can't do business with each other? What is it? So that, and can I also receive whatever the honest feedback you give me? It's a dance. It's a
Right.
dance for sure.
And I will say, as somebody who has a bunch of independent contractors, almost everybody who I work with is an entrepreneur, right? Like they
Right.
have their own business and they're
Right.
subcontracting with me, or a couple of them have shut down their business and they only contract with me. I think
Congratulations to you and the team for that, by the way.
right? Thank you. But I think that's part of it is because I am self-aware. So I created systems and I put things in place, and then they're not self-aware, so they can't get in line with the systems or everything that's in place. So it's like this back and forth dance. And some people I have more patience with, because usually the people I have the most patience with, their work is so outstanding. Right.
Mm-hmm.
And so you're just like, okay, we'll work through it. We'll keep going. Right.
For
And
sure.
then the people whose work is, I mean, it's good, but I could probably find somebody else. You go
Well,
like, yeah, no.
well, see, this is the interesting thing, and this is me with like just my talent leader hat on, right? So, you know, is it okay if we talk sports analogies?
Yes. I'm just because I'm a
Okay.
girl doesn't mean we can't talk sports.
No, no, but just for the general audience, I just wanted to make sure that was good. So, and no, I mean, you can be a woman. We gonna use women athletes. So if you think about it, if you're not Serena or Venus, right? If you're not, you would accommodate a Serena or Venus on your team because you like y'all are great. So let me make
Let me
sure I support you. And so this is the challenge. What supports do we put in place for the people who are not A players on our team? Because because even if like the home run hitter, that's great, but sometimes you just need to get on base. How do you support that person? How do you say, you know what? Sure, you not Serena. You might not go out there and win 5 straight sets, but you're really good and you're really talented and you do this well or to the best of your ability at this time. What supports can I put in place for you, not only to help you win, but to minimize my stress? And that's the, yeah, that's the part that like it requires a bit more work. And I think sometimes as CEOs or business leaders, we forget that like our greatest asset is our people, right? So like you think about the person that's giving you a challenge today, that we were talking about earlier. What system support, you know, calendar perhaps of here's when you can expect XYZ that reduces the stress on us. Um, because at the end of the day, like that's what it comes back to as being a leader is like the entrepreneurial journey is one that is it's not for the faint at heart. And if we don't have those constant exchanges, being able to recognize, oh, okay, you're really good. You know what? You might be a B player, but I'm still keeping you around because of this. And I'm gonna double back on that. And then I think collectively it was something else you said, and I'm gonna pause. Um, it's just around when you started out the business and it being so ideal. I challenge you, and it's something, myself as well. Like I have affirmations, I have my why up around me at my workstation, my home, is to revisit your why. Because on the toughest days when I'm dealing with the toughest people, clients, 9 to 5, like it's, I go back to my why. Why am I doing this? And I make sure that my why is still true. Because if it's not, something has to shift.
Yeah. No, I mean, I think, and it's so interesting that you say that, because literally every time we onboard a new client or onboard a new team member, I always talk about like why Thumbprint was created, and I still get excited,
Mhm.
right? Like I still go like, this is the goal, like we're gonna get here, and it's for me, I had to learn, like, I don't want team members who don't get excited about that why,
Mm,
right? And I had to start paying attention, because I would say it and some people would be like, okay. And then some people would be like, oh my gosh, that's dope. Like, yes, like I'm willing to work with you versus someone else, because when you buy into my why and you buy into, because Thumbprint was always supposed to be a collective, like that's in the name, right? Like
mm,
once you buy into that, I feel like you take a higher stake of ownership
mm,
over somebody who's like let me just do whatever it is you asked me to do because you're going to give me some money.
Right.
Right. Like, I don't want people that just want to be paid, because I don't have the patience, because you're probably not going to give me.
Mm. So, and that's something that everything has like a trade-off, right? So not wanting to have people who are just paid. And so, because I'm thinking about this in the context of someone who's hearing that and agrees, and it's like, okay, but what do we do? What do you do when you need to find someone? And that's why I think it's so important for spaces like this to build relationships, to know, so that you can have relationships with people, so that you can go into projects and knowing, okay, here's who I'm gonna poach for this project, or pick up or add to the team in 9 months, in 12 months, that we vibe, we speak the same language, because sometimes you end up in situations where you do, like, your business is dependent upon you getting a person in. And so what happens when you don't get the person who's like bought into to thumbprint? Are you gonna pause? Are you gonna say, all right, this project not gonna happen? No,
So
maybe.
we've been there. Like, we're
Okay.
there. We're there still. I usually do the work.
Ooh,
I fill the void.
ooh, that's so interesting. That's such why. Do you feel that strongly, that of like,
No,
wow, I could get some.
no.
Okay,
It's not that. It's not the ego, right? Like,
okay,
it's definitely because I don't want to fill the void. I'm very clear. I do not want to do this. Um, it is because so we've been operating for 2 years. I think if I was just going to guess off the top of my head, we've probably been through 10, 15 contractors in this period. And I will say everyone who is not bought into does not show up when it's time to show up,
hmm,
right? People who are, they're entrepreneurs or they're whatever, and they're looking to just add another client, right? Because they just need some more money or whatever it is, right? They don't, they just don't show up, like, at all. Like,
hmm,
so I'll take one of our biggest high turnover spaces is we do social media marketing, right?
okay,
So that
hmm,
means that I have copywriters, right? And it's always, that's our highest turnover, because they either come into it because they need the money, and then when they realize you can make more money, but that's more work, they go like,
hmm,
oh, heck no, like, I don't want more. And I'm always confused, like, I don't know how you expected this to work, right? And then the flip side of that is, you know, um, it's just not a priority. So,
hmm,
we can, say, hey, here's the new client, let's get started. And there's just no follow through until like the due date or the day after the due date or whatever, you know what I
right,
mean? Like, but those who buy into it, they just show up and they're like, hey, do we have the new work for so and so? Hey, where's so and so's social media post? Hey, what's for the like, they show up. Like, and that's just what I have experienced, right? Like,
hmm,
and then there's some spaces where it doesn't matter. Like, when it comes to the VA, we don't necessarily have to hire a VA who's vested, right?
right,
Because I'm very clear, these are the tasks, just do the tasks. Like, I don't even really need your brain half the time, right? Like, I just need the body to do the task. But in the other spaces, it just doesn't, for us, has not transpired.
got it. No, I mean, I think when you go back and look through this video, it's going to be really interesting, because I'm sure it's in your SOPs, but you have like your culture, like you've outlined kind of your culture of what you expect of employees. And I think just in interviewing people and evaluating new, especially social media copywriter, that's a very freelance dominant industry. And so, freelancers probably do have a number of projects, but it's like, again, just going back to those values that you have. Can you meet those values? And then no. And then you said, I'm gonna take on the work. I want to get you out of that space of having to take on the work. Like, because I do believe it's the CEO default. Um, and it's especially the default I find a number of times just in high impact individuals. Because it's like the work gotta get done. Um, my concern is the cost over time, because it cost, not only does it cost the business, it costs you, like it costs the team, because now you're needed for strategy and you having to jump in and do copyright. And so it's like, how do we, in that, I'm also just like, problem, I like to problem solve
No,
immediately.
I'm loving this. You're good. You're good. Keep it.
So it's just like, how do we, I guess, one, do we have budget to be able to hire a full-time copywriter, like someone who is just amazing and can churn out and create like a model that keeps them invested, but also keeps them just like incentivized to do great work? um yeah, is there, I'm just thinking, like, is there agency, is there a particular, like, the best copywriter you've ever had, just exploring what would it take to bring that person back, retain them.
So
uh
crazy you said that. So we have had one, and she was like the best, right? Like I was like, even whatever flaws she had, I was like, it doesn't matter because you're the best,
right.
right? Um, and we reached like, and she left. And I think she honestly, I think she left because she wanted to do more writing, right? And we
Mm,
kind of had her stuck in this space because you have to do what I need today to be able to get to what I want to do tomorrow, right?
right.
And so I think she just, that was why she left. And and I swallowed my pride and my ego, right? And I was like, call her back. And if she wants to come back, let's bring her back and let's just give her what she wants,
Mhm.
right? Because it was that good. And if we give her what she wants, we can probably find people to supplement what she's doing. And she didn't answer our call, so I was hurt. But
She didn't answer him yet. She didn't
yet,
answer him yet. But you pointed out something that is, I think it's hard for people, is to, especially sometimes small businesses, because you are trying to figure out who you can trust, but it's like, and how to build relationships. But any successful business, you're gonna have to give your great talent space to grow beyond where you can even see, and like just room to be able to. But I know you were like, I need you to do this, but it's just such a beautiful acknowledgement. And so I appreciate you for even acknowledging, like, whoa, wish we could have done this. Now you're in a space where you are. And so, maybe she's watching and is like, all right, let me call her back too.
listen, if you are watching, no, but I mean, and that, so that those are those moments when I go back to my why and the idealism that I had behind Thumbprint, because that's what I really want, right? Like, I want these people who are just dope in their space,
Mhm.
and I want you to just be you in your space. And then don't worry about marketing. Don't worry about getting new clients. Don't worry about the branding, right? Like, let me do all that. Let me shoulder all of that responsibility, and you can just
Mhm.
be dope in this
Right.
space. And so, I mean, now you're making me feel like I should just reach out again, like, just, hey, maybe.
No, because it doesn't hurt when people know that they want something. It's like, you'll figure out what you need to do to get in contact with her, and she might be in a space where, she, it sounded like it ended on amicable terms. So, yeah, why not reach out?
No, yeah, yeah. And it's crazy because as we're growing, right? Like, we're in this space of, I'm realizing as a CEO, this is the thing that makes us money, that keeps our lights on. These are the things that have the greatest profit and the greatest reward, right? So now I'm ready to start shifting into these spaces. And I just want like this little core team that can handle this space and let me move, right? Because as I move into the other spaces, that brings in more revenue. So then I can pay even this core team more money, even though they're not necessarily doing more. But I want to pay you more because I know the more I pay you, the little, maybe you'll be a little more content. Sit down, don't move.
But not, you know what though? I think sometimes where we miss an opportunity is in not sharing a part of being able to help other, like have that core team also help be able to generate more revenue. Because typically, people don't leave businesses for pay. It's typically like relationship they have with the manager. So yeah, because like you could pay me, an absorbent amount of money and be a horrible manager, and I'm not going to stay. And I think that's what we collectively have seen that in the Great Resignation that's happened. And so it's just like, what other ways can you invest in your staff? Like, so understanding just who they are, what do they like, looking at like outside of just, and I was having this conversation as well, looking outside of just compensation. Like, are you talking to your, not, and I'm not asking you this, but the question I asked was, are you talking to your staff? Are you talking to your direct reports in the language that affirms them, not in the language that would affirm you, but their specific language? Some people is money, some people is time and autonomy, some people is like, hey, like, can I sit and grow and develop and be able to share those opportunities? Because that's how you're going to bring people with you. And I think sometimes early on in the CEO journey, we think like, well, cool, as long as I make sure they pay, they're taken care of. And the reality of this current world is like, people are looking for more holistic work opportunities. Can I be a part of the thumbprint mission? How? What does that look like for me? You know? And
Yeah.
so I love that you are opening yourself up to that.
Yeah. Sidebar, for any of you who are watching, if you have questions, comments, anything, you are more than welcome to drop them in the chat. Like, this is not just, I know it seems kind of personal, but it's not, I promise. Or at least say hello so we know who you are and that you're watching, right? Don't be a creeper. But I love that. Like, I think, well, I know for sure that we are going to reach back out to her and just ask, like, what do you want to do? like,
Yeah.
like,
And
let's
then and, th-
happen.
and think, and even too, like one of the greatest tools that I think we forget, that I even, have done with contractors, full-time employees, is just one-on-one meetings. Are you having a weekly one-on-one? Um, you know, I think that should be the standard in any business. Is like, have that one-on-one wellness check-in. How are you doing? That way you can understand, oh boy, are there some things that might explode in this person's life this week? And then just checking in on the status of, okay, cool, how are projects going? And then I think the greatest question is, you know, is there anything else that we can do that would make you happy or feel more fulfilled in this particular role, workplace, contract, you know, because that unlocks the door for like, all right, okay, either this person is thinking about leaving, and that's great because I'm ready for their contract to end, or this person is like not feeling fulfilled, and I have some other things I'm thinking about. Let me see if they'd be interested in joining this call or leading up this other project and getting a percentage.
Yeah, totally. So I don't do one-on-ones because I'm over my people quota. Like, I
Okay,
can't people with people no more. But
got you.
our operations manager does one-on-ones. And it's so interesting that you say that because I know her, right? And I know that she is always asking like how they are doing. Like,
Mhm.
yes, how's the work coming along? What's going on? But she's always asking how they are doing. And it's so interesting how many people have a hard time
Mhm.
just saying like, you know, shit is hitting the fan or whatever it is. And we constantly try to say, this is like a little family.
Mhm.
We want to know if you are struggling in something, right? Not just because it may affect your work, but because we may be able to provide something to you to be
Right,
beneficial. Because I'm just as concerned about you as the person as I am as you as the contractor, right? Because if the
right.
I know if Jennifer the person ain't good, bump all this. Like it ain't happening. It ain't going
You
down.
know what makes those conversations easier? It's gonna sound so simple, but the color system. You can easily do just like the stoplight. Like, are you feeling green, yellow, or red? And have the and or you can be really creative, like I am with my team, and it's just pick a color and describe why that color represents you. And people just it makes it easy because it's like first somebody's picking a color, and then they're describing why they're feeling that way, and it's just listening. Um, and the thing as a CEO was also different of leading a team is our CEOs don't have enough coaches, um, and like enough, even if you can't like coach, that could be extensive, even just like mentor or digital mentor or someone like, what is your go-to source? I think about everything holistically, and I really look at it in this board of advisors approach. Who is your personal board of advisors? And like, who do you go to for your spiritual, emotional, mental, physical, um like check in, or to be able to like, okay, I need to get restored in this area. I'm struggling with this. Um, and like making sure you check in with yourself, right? Like it's important.
Yeah, totally. Yeah, like I have maybe two of those, right? And I think now it's time to add some more to
Yeah,
the list because some things are not really business, right? Like it's not a business. I mean, it's a problem that is affecting the business, but it is not a business problem, right?
right.
And this is some other
But it
stuff.
turns into a business properly. But my grandpa, gosh, one of the wisest men that I know, he just used to always say, like, if you don't take care of your home, you can't take care of anything else outside of that. And like your physical self is a home. So it's like, what are your personal things? Like that's why some people, they'll call me, or, we may do just like coaching sessions where it's really just like, it's not therapy. Sometimes it can get to a place and I'm like, let's find you a therapist. But it's really like getting those things out. Like, what are you feeling? What are you dealing with today? Because we all need like a reframing. We all sometimes need to say, okay, let me step back from this. Okay, let me acknowledge my feelings because they are real. And like, can I have space to not only like sit with them, process them? Are there solutions? Can this be resolved? Does this need to be resolved? But really, just like your safe space for you as a CEO, I think it's a sacred part. And I really want to find out what we can do for parents, because I know you all have the least amount of time of like sacred space, like of how do you meditate? Like I hear your morning routine, and if I'm coaching you, I'm like, okay, I know you don't want to get up early, so how do we push your day to start later so that you can get like, let's start with 5 minutes of meditation, just five of your own time. And like one thing I've been sharing with parents lately is having the kids learn meditation. So during your 5 minutes, they know, okay, meditation time. Like, okay, cool. How do we get like a family meal prep? Because I just want to see, I know there are solutions, right? And like in all scenarios, for us to really like thrive, be our best selves so we can have our best businesses.
Yeah, no, you're right. Like it's so funny. I had a meeting with we call her our CEO shit consultant. So she works with our business owners who that we work with, right?
Mhm.
And so we had a meeting about growing that space in our business. And
Mhm.
I said, this is why you are the perfect person in this season for this. because I needed you, right? Because
Mm-hmm.
she said, so I'm gonna need you to just listen to a podcast before you start the day. She said, you ain't got to do yoga, but I'm gonna need you to
You
just
don't.
feed you every day. And it's so like you confirmed that, but it's true, right? Like if we're not constantly the Jennifer you get, maybe there.
Mm-hmm. Listen, there's one podcast that I highly recommend. It was recommended to me last year, and she's phenomenal. It's Good Mornings or God Mornings with Curly Nikki. Her name's Nikki Walton. I think she's a woman of color. She is amazing, and I think it's a great way for people just to start off their day, right? Like just the vibe she sets, the tone, she's centering you, just to be, and they come out just about every day a week. Um, yeah, it's just like it's almost. I think she calls it like a mini retreat, but it feels that way. Just to center yourself, 10 minutes, sometimes like 7 to 12 minutes. Amazing.
Okay, so I'm now going to listen to this. I
Check
just
her. It's
I
good.
just put it on there. I'm gonna let me. She has a website, so let me just drop the website.
Hmm.
But yeah, like I think and that's something for those of us who ain't gonna sit still. Like let's just keep it real,
Hmm.
right? Um,
Hmm.
this is definitely like for me the shower. Like that's supposed to be like my private space. Like
Yeah.
so I purposely take one when my daughter's still asleep. Like they'll bother me in here, but this is just something that we can play.
Yeah, and it's like, this is you know what happens when when we get to the places that we've dreamed of, whatever that title looks like. Sometimes we forget the fact of, um, I'm a very spiritual person, and I thank God for everything, and I feel like my life is divine in this way. But sometimes we lose the fact that we still get to create and set the atmosphere in which we work. So thinking about that shower, right? Like, all right, cool. Like, can we go to TJ Maxx, make sure we have candles in stock? So even at like on my desk, like I have my candles, I have like my incense holders. I keep a little bit of sage just to light throughout the day if I need to. My photos of my family. Like, what can we do? I'll even be on calls with like some music playing in the background. I just have my like keeping the water. It's just like, how do we ensure that, like, yes, we're gonna have 1,000 things happening, but like, are we pouring into ourselves at the levels that we really need and setting our atmosphere for just like, phew, today gonna be a whirlwind, but I got it. I got my incense, I got my playlist, I got my favorite food, snack, it's just random, but I think it goes a long way.
No, it does. It does. Look, I'm this. Food is my love language.
I love it.
I tell people, and I accidentally recently talking about incentivizing your team with more than just money, right? Like I sent everybody a little care package of snacks.
Mm,
And I put on there, I said, food is my love language. So this is me showing you love. Like,
mhm.
and I said that because I wanted them to understand this probably is not nothing major, not nothing whatever, but this is how I receive love. And I don't really know how all of you receive it yet. So I'm just going to give it, but I'm letting you
Yeah.
know that that's what this is.
It's funny, one of my partners, um, and like, it's great when you can do business with people you love, and like she's my business partner, and like really one of my great friends. But I remember an exercise. She was when we were expanding the team for a particular project. She wanted to do the love language exercise so that she could show up for people in the way that they need it. And so that could be a potential. I don't know if you want to do that with with your team or
I
have your ops
we
manager.
don't have to do that. I see.
Yeah, because I think the only one that gets, well, it's not tricky, but you can get a team massages, little in-home massage. It's a cool app. Um, we did that actually where we got the whole team in home massages for the holidays. And so just, people like that quality touch, people like the time. Um, yeah. And it's funny, please, I don't know why this came to my spirit. I don't know, it may not be for you, but maybe for someone who will see this is don't ever underestimate the power of like your presence as a CEO, even if you only have a team of one, even if, or you have a team of like, 1,000 plus, your ability to pick up the phone and call somebody or send somebody a text, you can change their day, let alone like the state of mind they may be in just from that, just from your presence. And again, that's why it's always so important to take care of yourself.
I love that. I love that. Well, we are clearly over our hour.
I'm My bad. That's on
No,
me.
no, we good. We're good. I'm just saying because I know you got stuff to do. I'm looking at all the emails that keep popping up over
You,
here. Like,
you
oh
know they
no,
flowing.
if
They
y'all don't
flowing.
leave me alone. But with that, is there anything that you want to leave any CEO that's building their team, trying to build their team, wherever space they're in? Is there something that you want to leave with them?
Um, I think it's two things. One, prioritize taking care of yourself. Um, Sometimes when we are so used to working from a place of exhaustion, we then want to demand that and ask that of others. And I think the more we take care of ourselves, the more we can demand that, hey, no, actually you rest because you give me your best product, your best work product when you rest. And then the second part of that would definitely be to um, continue just reinvesting in your, it aligns with the first, but continue reinvesting with your, in your team. And that also includes you, like you are an employee or hopefully will be an employee of your business. And so, um, oh, huge shout out to Rashonda. I saw her name come up. Love her to death. Um, but you know, continue reinvesting in yourself and your employees. Like it will pay dividends, and really go through and ask yourself just kind of holistically, like, how am I? Where am I mentally, spiritually, physically, emotionally? And where do I need to get like advisors to help support me and help support my team members. And I think if you can do that, you'll go a long way. And I'm always here as a resource, not only just to you too, Jennifer, and to your entire collective. Like I want to be able to support entrepreneurs, especially entrepreneurs of color, because we have a different set of challenges. And so that's why you keep hearing me talk about self-care, because our challenges are very nuanced and to live in a time and also build in it, like the one we are in now, is unique. But I know we're equipped, and I believe in each of you. And again, I'm thankful and honored and very grateful to spend time with you today.
No, I love this. Like I and you can say that I'm not lying, but like people always ask, like when I ask people to come on and talk about something, people always get like, okay, so do you have a list of questions? Are we doing this? Are we do? And I'm like, no, I'm an ebb and flow type of person. Like it's a
Mhm.
conversation, because I believe that we as people of color, Black people, we require something different, right? And there's a million coaches out there. There's a million webinars you can join. There's a million programs you can join, but we're not having enough conversations, right? About this thing that we all want to do, but the nuances of it and the difficulties of it and the little thing, like everybody wants to talk about hitting six figures, but what does that really take emotionally, physically, spiritually, like what those pieces, right? And
Retaining
so
six figures. You can make six figures, but can you retain six figures to grow your business? Can you make sure your taxes are in order? Like these are the hard lessons. You got to get Rashonda on here because she can help with the tax piece. But like these are the hard lessons as a entrepreneur that no one teaches us about systems and sometimes you just like, you know what? I'm out of here. I'll get my W-2, um, you know, and just live it up that way. And there's nothing wrong with that either.
Yeah, totally. Rashonda, for the record, he said that you had to come on and do
She
one of
does. She
our
does.
so don't be mad at
I
me.
think that should be a thing. Like the last person should nominate the next person that they want to see to come on.
See,
And then that'll take some off your plate too, because then you don't have to think about like building your guest list because it's
it's
already
it's not, I didn't do it. He did it. He's decided this is happening. We're gonna do this. Like we're gonna do this. She'll be on, and then she'll nominate somebody else to be on, just like she gave
hmm
me the referral for you. See how this all works
yeah. Mhm.
out? Yay!
Shout out to the Innovation Hub.
Try to kill me. But no, thank you so much. I want everybody to know how they can reach you. If they're interested in, HR consulting and getting their life together, right?
Yeah, we could always chat. The easiest way to reach me, I would just say, is and I think you have my contact. Yep, there it is right there, elevento1.com. You can reach out to me on there, and then also just like, if you fill out the form, um, it'll come to me, or it's just Ty at elevento1.com. So yeah, I'm happy to be available and chat, help people wherever they are in their business journey and
Yeah,
life journey.
yeah. And I'm probably gonna reach out to you to do some sort of a training or something for our team because I think they need it. I know they need it. We need it.
Yeah,
So I'm gonna reach out to
I'm down.
Yay. Thank you so much again for taking time out to join me for our Building a Team Lunch and Learn. You've heard him tell you next time we will be back with Ms. Rashonda Renee of Innovative Entrepreneurs Hub talking about taxes and all that good stuff because some of y'all be doing some weird, scary stuff. But anyway, until next time, it is Hershimi, your girl, Miss Jennifer Pink. I am the CEO and lead strategist for Thumbprint Collective, and we out here, y'all.
Peace.